having a fucking tantrum because things don't work that I pay for. Oh my God. Should not be this hard. Like, seriously, it doesn't matter. This is what happens. I was prepared. I knew what I was going to talk about, and then shit doesn't work. This is the fucking, oh my God. Are you working or not? Fucking hell. Oh, I don't know if it's working. It's not giving me any indication that it is fucking working. I swear to God, like, you get to see me in my natural fucking state right now, which is me having a toddler tantrum over fucking tech. Okay, it says online. Cool. Awesome. This is going to LinkedIn. I can't see what would be wrong with that. Oh my fucking God. Goddamn tech. Jesus. You working or not? Let me have a look. All right, it appears to be working. But it's not giving me any feedback that it's fucking working. So there you go. This is the fuck. I tell you what, you spend your life working in tech and knowing how these things, and it's like basic shit. I swear to God, this is how you become, like, oh my God. Okay, let's have a look. Is it giving me any fucking feedback that it's working? It isn't. So there is absolutely zero indicator. I don't have any cue. Are you fucking kidding me? What a okay, I'm moving away from this shit. I'm going to move these tech problems. You know that thing where it's just, oh, so sick of dealing with this bullshit. How you ever go through this thing where you sit and you're trying to use tech? Like, I'm pretty tech savvy, right? You could say that I'm up there in the fucking top couple of percent of people who know how to use tech. And this stuff does my fucking head in. So I can only imagine how it is for like a normal person. Like, I used to work in obviously user experience was a big part of my consulting job, designing experiences. And a big part of that is empathizing with the user. It's good to know that the empathy part has been skipped in favor of shitness and things just not working. And you know what's going to happen is that this will end up being something that I did wrong, and I'm yelling at a fucking thing because I didn't do a setting or something. That's probably how it's going to go. But anyway. So I have zero feedback about whether things are working, about whether I am live. I have manually checked X and I appear to be live on X. As for the rest, no fucking clue. Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. I swear to God, this shit breaks me. This is why I don't bother. Because it doesn't matter what you do. Like, you need resources, you need a team, you need fucking all this stuff, and it doesn't matter how much preparation you do. It's just like, fucking hell. I just pay for a product. I want it to work. It is that fucking simple. But apparently that's too fucking simple these days. So anyway, hi. Jesus, working on Substack as well. Okay, no one's watching anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. Who gives a shit? Welcome to my channel where I talk about things in tech whilst constantly fucking yelling about the bullshit in tech. But, people do actually, to be serious, people do like to pretend that this stuff is, oh good, Siri turned on. Even better. Fuck off, Siri. I don't want you. Go away.
I won't respond to that.
I won't respond to that. Thank you. I don't need you to. Go away. This is okay. This leads into like a general conversation about you can't find anything. You can't do anything. This is why I quit, because I saw all this coming. Like no one was like particularly interested in caring about users or users' rights or making things easy. Like I bought this bullshit Kool-Aid that somehow tech was supposed to make our life easier. Like my whole profession was about understanding the user and trying to figure out ways of, removing friction, right? And like I know that like there was a stream some time ago where, in the context of the culture wars, you do need to put some friction back in because obviously we've enabled a bunch of like things, removed friction from certain things that, really shouldn't have shouldn't be frictionless, like, delusions and feeding delusions and all those sorts of things and feeding narratives. But like at the same time, it's like my whole career, I look at this and I zoom out and I go, what the fuck? This was not what this was supposed to be. You're supposed to create you know what? If you can just create a computer that works, that isn't shit, that delivers what it promises, that doesn't force me to have AI, that doesn't force here we go. This is what pisses me off. This is what I'm moving away from Google for this reason, right? I've been a Google Workspace customer since it launched. Like I've poured a lot of, and it just keeps going up and up in price, which is fine. I understand that things cost money, right? This is going to turn into an AI rant and a fucking tech rant. It will. And they go, okay, so if you've got a workspace, so workspace, if you don't know what Google is, workplace subscription, right? They've changed the name so many fucking times. I don't know, maybe you should put some of that branding money into your product. Fuck me. Anyway. So I used to work with these cunts. You'd think they're smarter than they are. They're not. They're siloed and retarded, and they're a 20-year-old company like anybody else. Okay, so they go. So I bought, pay per seat. Like I've had Google Workplace product that scales as well. So I've had like obviously for my business, you had a multi-seat thing, but for now it just runs my single email. Right? I don't really need much. And so, but they give you this thing where it's like, use Gemini. I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want it. Use Gemini. It's going to cost you extra. Here's a free trial. I don't want it. Gemini is Google's AI product. I don't want it. I don't want to use it. Okay. I don't need it. Here it is as a free trial. Okay. It's $30 a month. No, I don't want it. I don't need it. I've got AI in like Notion and in like everything else. I don't need it. Like in the limited use cases that I use AI, I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm not going to pay for it. So I go, no, I'm going to stick with the standard workplace product. I just keep my subscription. And they go, okay, well, have AI. And then they force it on you. And then they go, okay, use AI, use AI. I said, I don't want AI. I want to turn this shit off. And I know you probably can turn it off, but I'm saying, again, I'm exaggerating. But I'm not asking for tech support. Guys, I know what I'm talking about. This is rant. Sign up to Google Workplace. This is just the whole process. This whole fucking last 6 months of my life, which has been have AI, have AI, have AI. I don't want AI. I'm not paying for it. Then they go and say, well, no one's paying for it. Let's force them to have it. And then they send an email saying, due to the cost of running AI, your price is going up. And I said, I didn't want AI, please. That shit. I fucking hate this shit. It's driving me nonkers. It's driving me nuts and bonkers. Nonkers. But if you've tried to search anything, obviously, you'll know. Like, I wanted to get some pure eucalyptus oil. You'd think that was a straightforward thing. I'm going to look up whether this eucalyptus oil is 100% because I didn't know that. And you go, okay, I'm going to check on Amazon. Amazon, 100% natural eucalyptus oil, 100% pure. Is it 100% oil or not? I don't want 100% natural. I don't want all this gaming of algorithms. And I search Google, is it this? And it says, the AI just gives you bad results. You can't get results. You can't fucking find anything. It's like, then you get linked to a Reddit conversation about whether it's fucking 100% pure or not. And it's like, I just want a simple fucking thing to work. And it just work. And this is me, and I know tech. I know how to use tech. I can only imagine how absolutely frustrating this feels to anyone who is actually just like doesn't understand what's going on, like, and can't pass fact from fiction, and like there's a lot of those people. Like, have you met them recently? They're hanging out on the everything app. They can't tell the difference between like truth and like, yeah, fact and fiction, right? And so, but also like when you work in user experience, you know that this is by design, and that's the thing that like I think people don't understand, which is that this stuff is actually by design and a decision because at the through the design process, you make all you when you're designing a product, you actually do make these decisions. You sit down and it is a choice, and you go, well, we need to do a user journey. So a user journey is supposed to be an empathy exercise with the user. What are they doing? How are they doing? How can you help them through their day? How can you? But instead, they're like, how can you fuck with them to the minimum amount so that you can extract profit? What's their maximum pain point before they show up your fucking door with an AK-47? That was a joke. Before they break you to the point. And then the thing that is so they're doing this at every level of every. I'm sure you share my frustration. This is what I plan to talk about, can't you tell? This is exactly what I plan to talk about. No, but they do this, and that was the thing I think that made me quit, was because I worked in, like, obviously product design, user experience, all that sort of stuff. I bought that fucking Kool-Aid. We're improving lives, we're making things easier, we're doing all of this stuff, we're removing friction ethically and all of those sorts of things, right? So we're doing those, we're making technology's making our life easier. This is a revolutionary thing, okay? It's gonna and you're seeing, like, the AI goblins, like, swallow this Kool-Aid, like, fair and like fully as well. And it's like, well, if you've lived through enough tech cycles, you understand they're lying and it's not true. You're clinging to this little part, this little bit of hope that this hellscape isn't what it is, and that you can change things, because people need to cling on to that idea that they can fix it or change it, or here we go. We'll dovetail into what I wanted to talk about. This little this thing where you think there's hope. There's hope in that. I think one thing that I think a lot of socialists sort of miss is that capitalism can be utopian as well, in the sense that if you are somebody who is poorer or disadvantaged or whatever, this capitalism thing, this merit, this notion of merit, it does sell you something where there is a hope thing. Like, again, as someone who's lived through this stuff, okay, like, and I grapple with all of this stuff. I've been a business owner, I've been a boss. Obviously I am educated as a socialist, and I am a socialist, and I'm not going to strawman what socialism is. But if I'm talking about, I'm strawmanning a tankie just for fun, okay? Like, your quintessential sort of commie tanky idiot, sort of whatever, who doesn't actually understand this stuff, okay? But capitalism does provide hope for someone like me, where, I don't necessarily want help from other people. I do tend to be individualist. I tend to think that if I, put work in, I get what I do tend to be more like you get out what you put in. And again, I understand that socialism is that too. Like, socialism is about merit. It's not about like, I personally, not that it's my business, not that I care, and I think that there's a net positive in it, right? But I also don't really want to be subsidizing fucking, waste of space to fucking sit on couches and shit. I want people to be happy and fed and all that stuff. But I do stop short of again, I don't think they should starve. I don't think they should have no shelter. I don't think you should punish people for not working. But there is something inherently rewarding about um, working hard, putting in the work, all of those things. That capitalism does provide some motivation in that regard. Now, I'm just saying there is some hope there that is absent from mainstream discourses about socialism. Again, I don't want to get into quibbles about it. Obviously, let's assume we're on the same side there. I tend to be, like the anti-work, the straw man of the anti-work movement. I've talked about that at length. Is that people? I don't think that people should have to work to survive by virtue of being born without their consent. That's not cool. But there is something inherently, again, people throw out the baby with the bathwater, which is that, there is something inherently valuable, rewarding, and fulfilling about accomplishing, achievement. Okay. Now, again, not saying that can't happen under a socialist framework. I'm saying capitalism has a point in certain regards. Everyone's got a point. Part of my arguments are that capitalism has a point. Now, I digressed, which was I bought that Kool-Aid with tech, which was that clinging, that idea. I needed to. I I think that a big part of what this stuff is, I bought the Kool-Aid with tech because I thought, hey, I have a shot here. I don't have to go and kill my soul and pretend that, like, and work for the government. I can work for myself and I can have freedom and I can say what I want. I can say what I want and I can, be me and, be a little bit of a toddler and all those sorts of things. And I can still make a living. I can still cover business. Like capitalism does reward certain temperaments. Okay. And like I am able to be more myself than others because I sort of was able to bypass this sort of system, I suppose, for lack of a better word, to not have to sell out too much, and I could be myself. Up until I found out what the catch was, which was that I bought. So I bought anyway. I saw my thing is I bought the tech bullshit hook, line, and sinker. It was a source of hope for me. I can change things. I can make things easier. I bought those things. So go easy on the tech people because they're in a state of cope, which is that they think that like again, they think that they're going to be not not the serfs. They think they're going to be currying favor with the lords, right? That's the mistake. I realized, obviously, because I'm me and I have a weird mix of, training and skills and experience and all that sort of stuff. These things are structural. And so, they like to tell you these things and they're wearing t-shirts and sneakers. And I cottoned on a lot earlier that these are the same guys in suits. They're just wearing they're just wearing T-shirts and jeans and sneakers, but they're the same people and I saw that. I saw the industry going that way. And so I bought that Kool-Aid, which was I'm making life easier, but it became untenable. It basically became like anybody who believes my school of thought around tech product or whatever, that the user has rights and the user is a human being and, uh, people who are, the those that designers have an ethical sort of responsibility to uh, consider their users' needs, rights, all of those sorts of things, and actually empathize with the user. That's been wiped out in service of profit, right? So that's why, again, Cory Doctorow, the enshittification. That's a word that's hit the vernacular, and people just again say without actually implementing. There's a lot of tech people who and shitify, but justify their shitification, and they run around saying how everything we're all part of it. We all contribute to it. Um, we all enable it, and we all allow it, and that's why I'm moving away from Google after all this time. Like I just like no, you can't do this. You can't keep extorting this shit out of me. This is not what you signed. This is not what you signed. No, I don't accept this. And so, they crossed the line with me and this AI shit is just another version of that. Okay, so it's just anyway, I'm warming up. I've been thrown by fucking tech failures and it's like, can things just work? Can things just work for once in their fucking life? Because we did reach somewhat of an equilibrium with tech around social media where things were not perfect, but but again, humans being humans, here we go. This is why we can't have nice things. Rule number 7 in my book that I'm writing. We can't have nice things. We just simply can't because greed will wreck it. Selfish people will wreck it. Trolls will wreck it. And, these things are too tempting to wreck. And nobody seems, um, nobody seems really motivated to fight They'll tinker at the edges as critics. They'll create content. They'll create content about it. They'll definitely create lots and lots of content, like about AI, and they'll find that. Let's just say they'll find their niche, and they will continue to promote said content. But no one's really invested in the sort of structural change, right? They're not really invested in that. And that's where, I made a decision, and I can't be in this. I can't participate in this. Am I fucking lost as a result? Yes, because I love tech and I'm passionate about user experience design. I have to fucking, like, I get animated and yell, but I also know that I have tried to create alternative products several times and no one will fund it, because unless it's got enshittification and dark patterns and manipulative, like, design and all of these things built in, um, nobody will fund it because it's less profitable. And they will go with the thing that is, like, evil and profitable over the thing that is ethical and less profitable. Not even money losing, but less profitable. Like, I there's a show in Australia. If you're in America, you might not know, but there's a show called Gruen here, and it's a panel show on our public broadcaster where they talk about advertising and advertising and marketing and that sort of stuff, and they do commentary on various, like, advertising marketing techniques, right? And I've noticed them sort of going this AI debate that they've been talking about, and, like, nobody is looking at their own role in things, and that's where it's like I try to. It's very frustrating because you sit there and you watch, like, these ad agencies and stuff, and they're not really questioning the underlying premise of, like, the industry, right? And that's where it's like, that you don't have the right to invade people's lives like this. Like, you just don't. So anyway, and that's where, I was like, "Okay, so is the solution to this stuff," because, it was actually harming people. Now, again, it depends. The type of harm that that we're talking about, it depends. Like, the research, it depends on what platform, who's involved, how vulnerable they are. There's so many different variables. So you can't really talk about, like, online harm as a blanket either. Like, these are complex issues, right? This is why, it's gonna intersect with the law, but it does there's a lot of, like, complexity to these things. But at the end of the day, some of these things are decisions, right? They're actual decisions that are made by, uh, people like me in my position who were designing product, who, when faced with the decision or choice between something harmful and something that will hurt a user and inflict harm on a user, whether psychological, emotional, or sometimes even physical harm on a user, they will go with the easy, lazy, unethical, profitable option. And that was where I was fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and just losing money, hemorrhaging money. I couldn't do it. And you can't. So that's where, you start to see that capitalism as a structure generally provides that sort of that hope. You think that if you just compete, like, I thought, well, just be better. Like, they tell you that. Like, when you're in business, it's like, well, don't be worried about your competitors. Don't worry about people stealing from you. Don't worry about, like, all of these things. If you are relational in the way that you conduct your business, people will, you'll be rewarded in time and it will come back around and all of that sort of stuff. And I believed that up until sort of 5 years ago, where I thought, well, don't be bothered. Like, I've had my designs ripped off and all this stuff ripped off since the beginning of the internet. Like, the number of times I do a website, this is back when websites actually needed designing rather than just assembly, like fucking jigsaw puzzles. But actually doing design and animations and Flash and all that sort of stuff that was actually creative. The number of people that would just knock off my stuff, like, you can't be constantly trying to do that. And This will again lead into what I'm talking about. I just got to warm up. I'm meandering because I'm like got fucking thrown by the tech. But you know, when you're actually just like I've been knocked off so many times. Like I'm in industries where people who are just going, like, people are going to steal. They're going to pirate. They're going to nick it. They're going to do it. You make it available. They're going to steal it. So for me, this AI training argument that it was there so you can take it, like, it's not valid, but I understand the mindset is there, okay? Like, these guys are just bad guys who, you know, will tell you that if you, because they're people without, like, a creative bone in their body, and they don't understand. They think it's just theirs for taking. They're consumers of content. They don't understand that these things actually take resources, time, effort, people, creativity, intelligence, discipline, a whole combination of things to just create, for them to just turn around and just harvest and steal and co-opt and react and all of those sorts of things. So people, if you're not creative, you don't understand, like, the effort that goes into things. You take that for granted, right? And so, so the AI guys, they're acting basically on brand. Like, there's nothing new about what they're saying. It's just that it's happening at scale now, and it's happening to those who also were stealing from other people, record labels, authors, Twitter, like, writers who, like, for me, I have very little sympathy for these fucking blue checks who are complaining that AI stole their shit, because, I've had my, like, so many tweets. They had a whole business model dedicated to lifting tweets for 10 years before this. It's like, look, I empathize. Yeah, it's wrong, but where were you when, like, when you were making the decision between running someone's tweet without credit and, like, um harvesting it and misappropriating it quite deliberately out of context in order to, to sell a story, which I've had done several times over the years until I told them to fucking stop. Um, Taking my tweets because journos would steal because I'm very funny and witty. But then I went viral and they, like, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so, but, where were you when you were faced with having to lift people's tweets and get the revenue from those tweets while reporting it as news and pretending that it was news, and, borrowing and sourcing stories from Twitter, and, like, you were doing the same thing. So why should I have sympathy for you? I don't, because you were stealing people's shit. You don't create it, like, these people that were just creating content that was stealing and lifting tweets. I don't have any sympathy for you because that's someone else's jokes. People who lift jokes or steal other people's uh, creative works are scum. Like, they're just like they. I. But at the same time, let's have a legal argument, okay, about transformative content. Blah blah blah. Okay, so um, but, it's not that's the thing about this, like, whole argument about, like, reaction and copyright and all this. It's like, people are going to steal content, and they're bad people. It's that simple. It really is. They're not creative, and I don't know why anybody would watch this slop. Like, I don't watch slop. I don't consume slop. I don't reward slop. I, um I was actually reflecting on this, like, not long ago, how I got thousands of hours of, content, and, I very rarely repeat a joke. Like, I very rarely repeat. I mean, I repeat myself, but I don't, like, I'm creative and I say things, and I could probably repackage and re-record and tighten it up and whatever, but I don't repeat stuff because 'cause I'm creative. I've always got new ideas and always, go off on a tangent or whatever. But there's people who will just, like, steal. I've had my jokes stolen so many fucking times by so many people, working professional comedians as well, who, like, because they're willing to do the unethical thing, and I'm not. So anyway, fucking hell. So Facebook has all, like, Meta have also got this email. I've been getting these emails from Meta that they're gonna delete our videos after, like, 2 weeks. And it's like, well, wow, sorry. Did I give you all my data by mistake and that without compensation? And is it too expensive now for you to keep the video hosted? Oh, I'm so fucking diddums. Like, Jesus fucking anyway. Like this stuff is not what I imagined for tech. And that's why, I'm fucking 6 months out of law school now, out of finishing law school. Not even 6 months, fucking 2 months, 3 months. So, but it's um yeah, it's very frustrating because I hate the industry that I love and I can't go back. And I don't, I feel like I'm obligated to be a lawyer, but I don't know. It's like, I don't want to go. The reason I got into tech was because I didn't want to be told what to do. And now I can go into a fucking law firm at 46. And it's like, oh, fuck me. I can guarantee you that someone's going to wear a coffee at some point for talking to me. That's not a threat. It's just a prediction. I don't know. Well, I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. I don't know if I want to do it. I like the law. I'm passionate about it. Passionate about tech law, like these conversations, right? But I don't know if I don't want to be in like a corporation or corporate fucking setting at all. It's everything that I've tried to avoid my whole life. It's like, so it'll probably, and yeah, it'll probably just end up being like some sort of policy position or something instead. Policy advisor on, other people need AI advisors and stuff like that. So it's probably going to be that. But, I'm working towards these things because I don't have anything else to do because content sucks. Like, you can't grow an audience anymore. Like, it's unless you are doing slop and like doing the things that I won't do, that I think are more, again, it's about the net harm and net benefit. And there used to be a net benefit to these things, but now there's not a net benefit. There's like a net negative and net harm. And I don't feel so, like AI, um, there's a lot of good things about AI in terms of the actual tech. But if they'd stopped, the thing that I know about tech guys is that they don't know when to stop. And if they knew when to stop, I'd be more on board and I'd be more inclined to, like, say, let you go. But they have proven time and time and time and time again that they don't know when to stop and that they can't stop and they can't stop themselves. And that's the problem with AI. It's got nothing to do with being a doomer. It's the way that they behave when confronted with ethical decisions that they choose. I know this, that they will choose the unethical option. And that's why on its face, I have to oppose these things. Like, it's not that I don't see the value or the utility. It's the conduct, like with OpenAI in particular. The way that they could have done this was to get regulation and say, like, we have this technology, approaching people before they launched. Like, it was a shitty move to just launch it to the public, knowing what it would do. And that's the attitude of tech that I absolutely oppose because, again, it's not about, this culture of disruption, right? And Uber are a classic example of this, where it's just the thoughtlessness. It is the fact that it's the libertarian toddler brain rot fucking thing of like, I don't want, like, I joke that I don't want to be told what to do, and I do tend to lean into this sort of libertarian side of things, but I'm a real socialist libertarian, not a fucking psychopath. Psychopaths are not libertarians, okay? That's psychopaths wrapping themselves in a political ideology, but they're psychopaths, okay? And sociopaths. Sociopathy is not libertarianism. That's sociopathy. I think you need to make sure that you're passing your terminology, like, very, very carefully and being precise, right? This is why I'm enjoying law school, because if there's anything it requires, it's precision, right? And for me, who tends to wander off and meander and generalize and all that sort of stuff, and it's a good complement to my existing creative skill set. But being precise in your thinking, especially, political, and my background in political science, being precise about these terms, it does matter. which is that they're not libertarians. They're sociopaths who are justifying, they're sort of post hoc, rationalizing using an ideology. And it's the same thing with, sort of parts of the left who use post hoc rationalizing to justify their own violent impulses or their own ageism, sexism, or, all these sorts of things, where they think that they're talking on behalf of. You can find a political philosopher or an ideology to justify any kind of behavior towards other people and to rationalize things, but you're not off the hook because it's politics. You still got to be a good person, and I'm sure that there's going to be the quibble guys who are like, well, what is a good person? And I think, well, I think we have a good understanding that, selfish people who are violent, who justify harassment and bullying and bad faith, I would say are probably not a good person. I mean, that's, again, this is obvious shit, okay? I am deeply suspicious of people who quibble in general because especially when they do it to deliberately misrepresent or misunderstand something that you are obviously saying, right? I am as informed and well-read as anybody, okay? But if you're quibbling over semantics, okay, to justify certain behaviors, then I'm going to side-eye you quite severely and go, "You know what? I think you're rationalizing your own behavior, and you are justifying it and wrapping it up in, you know, various, like, you get therapy, deal with your trauma, and also, sorry, but you're a sociopath. You're not a libertarian. You're a psycho, okay? Because libertarianism is a, approach. All political ideology is an orientation and a goal of sort of an idealist society. None is more utopian than the other. They're all utopian because ultimately everyone's got different opinions and everyone's got to coexist. And, you can't bring about a fully socialist state if 30% of people oppose socialism. It's just not going to happen. So, what you are is if you're going to do that, then you are going to have to expect pushback and violence. So you need to figure out a way to compromise because you can't achieve these things. So you got to figure out a way to compromise and work together and understand that, whether you like it or not, there's people who don't believe in, again, there's people who don't believe in gender identity, okay? They don't think it's a thing. You can't bash them over the head to make them believe it. It's just they believe that. Persuade them, but it's inherently that's one example, but also people, women don't wanna be back in the kitchen, okay? They don't wanna subscribe to your fucking worldview. We're not breeders, okay? We're not just sitting here waiting around for you to get home so that we can give you a fucking blowjob. Fuck off. We got our own lives, okay? We're gonna resist that because you're imposing something on someone else, and that's authoritarianism by its, like, definition, which is that you think that your vision of the world is something that you can justify, pushing onto others. Can you tell I'm a libertarian? Live and let live, okay? But the way that you design society is through negotiation and building consensus and um, it will come into conflict, but for the most part, you're trying to build consensus. And so, I'm just deeply mistrustful of anybody who is justifying violence in any form. Like, it's unnecessary, and it shows that you don't have a good idea. If you need to use your words, not your fists. And, like, some of these things are things that you need to say to a toddler because everyone's a fucking toddler now. I was looking at this fucking Yabubu thing. Is it called Yabubu? Oh, fucking see, this is the thing. They can't the tech guys, they can't stop. They won't stop. This stuff will not stop until someone stops them, and that's where it's like, okay, well, how do you stop them? You make these things illegal. That's what it is. Don't care. Cry harder. It's illegal. You'll get a massive fine. If you do this stuff per user, 10 grand. They'll buck up quick smart. If Meta gets a $10,000 fine that they have to pay the user $10,000 every time they get a data breach, you better be sure they will invest in that shit. Okay? Here's the bar. We believe in you. Do it. Not hard. A little bit of authoritarianism when it comes to these things is good. The right kind, which is making things criminal. If Mark Zuckerberg got a month in jail every time someone was hurt by his platform, guess how quickly Mark Zuckerberg would clean up his platform? You're right? Okay. Or even a day. He'd be in there for life, even if it was like an hour with the amount of fucking damage that this man has done. Right? But anyway, so the tech mindset, right, is that they can just do what they want. They just go in and they do what they want like a fucking toddler, fuck shit up, wreck everything, and then go, I'm sorry, we're innovating. And it's like, no, you're not. Like the way that OpenAI could have launched was that they consulted with stakeholders beforehand, like because of the ethical implications and the political implications. An adult would have checked. Like when I've made product, I've gone, okay, look, there's too many implications here. Like, so one of the products that I MVP'd, and it became something where it was not tenable if you're ethical, and also just in terms of just from a pure risk point of view, it wasn't there. So for me, it was pool room, which is a joke, which was this idea that you could keep all of your secrets, your wills, your documents, things, anything that you could want to be released upon your death or not released. It could just be um, it's just a vault for the secure encrypted stuff that you didn't want out, right? Now, obviously, there's some questions there around how there's lots of different questions there, but there's other aspects of it where it could guide you into sort of writing your memoirs or getting your story. It was a place a private place where you could put your stuff that upon your death you could there'd be a key that person could uh, access these things, right? So it could be a burn book. You could use it however you wanted, but there's a bunch of tools for just uh, stuff that is there for after you die. Okay. And you could even sort of schedule letters and things like that over the years. So I was thinking about, when I was going through health stuff with my kids, and like if I didn't make it, and like it would be good to be able to sort of sit in hospital and write them letters that they got every year or for their birthdays, or you could schedule that stuff. So that was the sort of basic idea of the platform. But what we came up against was the fact that that would instantly be a target. Like, and again, this is 2025 eyes. I'm glad that I never developed that product because this was in 2012 that I started. No, gosh, there's been a couple. It was 2011 where everyone was rosy about social and like idealistic and thinking that this stuff would be this was pre-Cambridge Analytica, pre-Ashley Madison, all that sort of leak, all of those sorts of things. And it was a naive kind of thing. But so the conversation that I had with the money at the time, because I never had any money, like I'd always, and so I thought, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll pitch it. The first guy, it's always a guy, basically said, well, yeah, but well, what we can do is we can sell it to ancestry.com. And I was like, no, I don't, this is a standalone product. It won't, no, I'm not doing that. That's unethical. I'm not doing that. So he passed. The other one was pushing me to develop the product because it was MVP at that point. MVP is minimum viable product, where you build a demo, basically a minimum product that is like functional so that you can showcase it and start to recruit users. Like a big part of tech culture is that you build a product with its in beta, right? Launch it, recruit the users, and then pitch it for the next round of investment, right? So you get your seed money for a minimum viable product, and you then do a second round of funding, right? And so, but that is a minimum viable product, not a complete one. And so when you're dealing with something like secrets like that, right? Very, very, the legal liability and risk is off the charts, right? One user breach can destroy someone's life, right? And I took that very seriously. So he was basically pressing me to soft launch this product. And I said, well, no, you can't. You need the legal, you need the security, like, I take this very seriously. And he was extremely reckless with it. And he was trying to push me. He offered me $50,000 for 70% of the company, which is what they do. They're predatory. And I said, and a lot of people take that. They make the trade-off. It's like, well, and his words were, do you want to get this product off the ground, or do you want to not get this product off the ground? And that's what happened. And I said no, because I took that stuff seriously, and I did not want blood on my hands over sort of one life, right? Let alone, millions or billions in the case of like Meta. So but for me, I consulted beforehand and did the thinking up front. I didn't just code a product and put it out there and hope it would be okay. That's what Elizabeth Holmes did. And that's the thing that's interesting, is that like Elizabeth Holmes as like the fool person, but she is like no different to Elon Musk and no different to any other tech guy. It's just that they got lucky, and they either, well, they didn't rip off like powerful people for a start, but also they she fucked around and found out, but she's not unique to anyone else. Like the fact that she went to prison and 90% of Silicon Valley doesn't. Well, like that's a fucking miracle. And that's why I empathize with her, because she did what they all do, which was make it up as they went along. She just didn't end up, in the end, she didn't figure out the problem. And with OpenAI, they should have consulted before they launched this product, because there was some stakes, and there was actual, like, they should have done a risk assessment, and they should have done an impact assessment and all those sorts of things, and they didn't, and they chose the money instead. And that's been so prevalent throughout tech that I couldn't do it anymore, because I kept coming up against this. Well, do you want your product launched, or do you want, and it wasn't even, and again, even if I'd taken that money, they would have had control of my company, and I wouldn't have been able to have final say on anything. I mean, one thing for Mark Zuckerberg, to his credit, is that he retains that final veto. But I mean, his personal ethic. Let's just say Meta would be a lot worse if not for Mark Zuckerberg. But it doesn't mean that, like, yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So this is that whole culture of tech that I don't understand why, like, people are justifying it. And again, they wrap it in politics. They make it some sort of thing where you're a doomer, or, you whatever, okay, mudslinging all the time at the other side. And it's like, well, no, AI is great. It's great technology. You shouldn't have launched it without consulting with people first on the ethics of it. You don't build ethics afterwards because the horse is bolted. You should have consulted and told people that this was coming, and made sure that your product was fit for. It wasn't going to fuck anyone up if you actually give a shit. And the problem is that the culture in tech is to move fast and break things and not give a fuck. And it's like, well, no, you need, in any other industry, that would be, like, you'd be liable and considered reckless and reckless endangerment and all those sorts of things. right? You'd be at least vicariously liable for a lot of this stuff. And so that's what led me to tech. That led me to finishing, sort of doing my law degree to fight this stuff. But at the same time, I'm also in Australia, so you can't really fight this stuff here from here, right? But it is going to be interesting because there are differences um, in the law between Australia and the United States. And the United States, um, not just from a product point of view, like one thing that you need to know about tech is that they'll often design their because they're cheap cunts and profit driven. They won't necessarily do different rules for different countries. They may do if it's like cost neutral, but if it's not, they will benchmark their they'll the floor for what they will do is determined by the highest bar. So a lot of it, like with the GDPR and the EU, um, sometimes they will, like with Twitter, when you got that the German hate speech thing with content moderation, it obviously costs them less to have a content moderation process for German complaints over the rest of the world. But usually, what they will do is right, like if there's a rule that is like that they'll do their product to the highest rule, because what will happen is they don't necessarily think about what's right. They think about what they're liable for, and they do risk assessment and they weigh it up first. They spend the minimum amount that they can get away with spending, which they shouldn't do. They should have enough support staff. They should have teams of social workers at this point who can talk to users. Like that is the minimum amount that I would expect from these people. Won't get it, but that is what I would. That's my level is a lot stricter than um, your average person. But that actually, back to Gruen. That was the thing that I was found interesting, was that they'll always talk about these sort of social media harms and the and how they must do stuff, but they'll always back off when it's like affects their bottom line. And that's the thing that I find, even advertisers, they're like, no, we shouldn't ban under 16s from social media. That would be bad because we can't market to them. And also, there's all these people that cry about social media and its harms, but they're not necessarily advocating for public social media platforms that don't have ads on them, because everyone wants in on the fucking gravy train of content, right? And the problem is that it's brands and advertisers and uh, um, it's, all of the perverse incentives where you get paid for clicks and for watch time, not for any kind of quality. And if you do, any kind of educational expert content, first of all, you're punished by the board or whatever that you are. You're beholden to a social media policy that might not be fit for purpose. Like in the case of the legal board, if, people can go around saying whatever the fuck they want about the law, but the second you're a lawyer, you are regulated and unable to speak to correct people. Uh, it's outdated and yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But like nobody's advocating for like ad-free, publicly owned tech platforms because everyone wants to get paid. Everyone wants to get paid for content, for slop, and consume the slop. And that's where it becomes telling for me what people's priorities are. Because at the end of the day, politics is about priorities. And so if you care about a specific issue, like I can care about lots of issues, but my real politics is on what I prioritize. Right? So there's a lot of people who have made the trans issue the top fucking thing in the whole wide world, but, in the grand scheme of things, is it an important fight? No, of course not. Right? It doesn't matter? No. What is the biggest and most urgent, like, thing, right? There's someone at my door. Hang on. Sorry, someone's at my door. They just left. Okay, they left. It's just flies and shit. Okay. Um But you know, your real politics is your conduct and what you prioritize. You can say you believe whatever the fuck you want. You can talk about whatever you want, but what you prioritize is your politics. Okay, so if you're sitting there, and that's why it's like, actually, yeah, on this Jen Cougar thing, right? This is what I find really interesting. If you don't know who Jen Cougar is, because you're Australian and normal, and not online, there's this discussion. He runs the Young Turks, right? And there's been this whole discussion about um, MAGA and them having like things in common with the left, and this argument, as usual, about whether you can shift their hearts and minds and engage them. But it's not going to happen because when push comes to shove, their priorities are different, and you need to. They're gonna say they're gonna give lip service to anything. They're gonna give lip service, right? They're going to agree with you in the moment because it is the most it's the most expedient thing for them to do at the time. They're gonna say stuff. But your politics is, like I said, what you do. It is your priorities. And when push comes to shove, they're going to defend everything Trump does, and it doesn't matter. And you can believe whatever the fuck you want, but what you do is what matters. And where it is in your hierarchy is what matters. And so the rights of women is zero down there. Okay, hating trans is more important than and hating women is more important than women's rights. Like, there's a whole matrix of priorities. And so, and again, the thing that annoys me about Cenk is that he's just pretending that nobody else has gone through this process, and that he's the first and only savior that has ever tried to talk to MAGA and shit. And it's just so fucking, first of all, insulting, condescending, because he's late to the party. Most of the people who actually are clever and wise and special have moved on years ago from this and realized that it's a lost cause. Okay. So people like me who engaged with these freaks and realized that they're just saying stuff to get to recruit. They don't believe it. They don't believe anything. And again, but if you're someone like Cenk and politics is all about just saying stuff, and you're in media and you just say the thing, then of course you're going to think that you've got something in common with them because they're saying the thing that you said. It's like, well, but that's not politics. Politics is what you do and what you prioritize. And so, like these men who are like, well, I'm a feminist because I'm a husband and father. And it's like, yeah, but when push comes to shove, you choose the bro. What's your politics? Okay. Your politics are not what you say. Your politics are what you do. And again, the order in which you prioritize these things. And the top of their chain is Trump and getting and squashing Trump's enemies at any cost. It's a cult, and you are not going to get them. It's again, it's just like a deep misunderstanding of what politics even is, right? Because at the end of the day, like, you can say anything. People will say all sorts of shit to get ahead. Rich people will say anything to. Like, that was the thing, I think, when you grow up, like, not part of sort of that top 10% of society, right? You grow up sort of in the bottom 10%, right? Well, not the bottom 10% of Western society. Okay, you think that people mean what they say. I go through life thinking, well, if people say again, and also touch of the tism, I take people on face value a lot, and I go, okay, well, they said that, they must mean it. Like, I've always said what I mean. Like, part of the reason why people trust me is because I don't lie. Like, I just say what I'm thinking, and come what may, and I don't hide or conceal anything. But it's also why rich people are suspicious of me, because I just I'm telling the truth. And because they're used to others who are used to lying and misrepresenting and saying what is the most expedient thing at any given moment, that they are uncomfortable with people who just don't do that. But this is the thing about rich people and sales, is that they're always saying what's polite or expedient socially. And that was something, I think, who was it? Gary's Economics. Gary from, what's his name? Gary Stevenson? I want to say Stevenson. But Gary's Economics, and he was saying that when he started to earn money, he realized that that was a thing where when you're working class, you just say what you mean and because, you get found out, all these sorts of things. But rich people actually just say the polite thing or the thing that gets them what they want. And he didn't realize that until he was like one of them that, you can't necessarily trust people. They're all sort of you can't trust people in these circles to be telling you, they're saying the things that they want you. There's always an agenda to what people are saying. It's transactional in the way that they operate, right? And again, we're generalizing, but I don't know why anyone trusts anyone in media. Their job is like, and this is the thing I find funny about media people, is that somehow they think that people like me haven't been confronted with the same decisions and the same dilemmas. And in tech, like with my pool room story about that one product, I've had other products, but that was one of them. And that they act like somehow we haven't been where they are and made a better choice and a different choice, and the choice that didn't get us where they are. It's the same thing with these fucking like journalists or whatever. It's like, how many times I was I used to write op-eds and I was on TV and then I saw what I had to do to get there and I didn't. That's part of being smart, creative, talented, and dare I say charming. I'm kidding. But I'm saying it's not a skills issue. It's an ethics issue. Like there's a lot of people who, once you get to a certain age, you've been confronted with certain decisions and certain ethical dilemmas and various other things. And I've helped Holden. Yes, it's not a skills issue. I held out as long as I possibly could when it came to these things because I didn't want to be that person. And like I've only ever done work that I can live with. And even then, like I am, I'm regretful of the stuff that I have done sometimes because it's been in the gray area, but I've had to pay bills or whatever, right? It's like I've written like, the occasion, like I used to write a lot of ghost op-eds and stuff like that for people. And, I'd do some for buy now, pay later companies and fintech companies and various other things like that. And the CEO was dumb as a fucking brick. Everyone's dumb as fucking whatever, and they get me to write, sell these things to people, and make it sound like the CEO was smart, right? And but I mean, it was 10 years ago now, so I can say this. But it's just like um, people act like anyone who disagrees with them hasn't been in their shoes and hasn't been where they are and hasn't lived a life. Like for me, it's like I am telling you, I'm giving you my advice, which is that if you're trying to make a tech product or you want to explode online or any of these things, you're going to have to compromise. At some point, you're going to have to compromise on something pretty big in order to get where you need to get. And like, I don't see that as being controversial. And so it's not so much about jealousy and generalizing about billionaires. It's about having worked with these people and seen what it does to their soul. And so it's and see what it takes to actually get there. And they like to gaslight you and say, well, it's just because you didn't make it. It's like, yeah, I didn't make it because I'm not a psycho. And because I actually care about the users and I care about, the things that you told me were what we were working on, which was making people's lives better, not shitter. So that was a very rounded way of complaining about tech, but it wasn't really what I planned to talk about. But um, you've got this stuff with but you've also got, again, cottage industries pop up every single time, for and against, for and against, for and against. And with AI, it's one of those things where it's like, it's going to depend on so many different things. Like I'm not anti-AI. I'm anti-predatory practices. I'm anti-misleading and deceptive conduct. I'm anti a breach of what I believe to be a duty of care towards users. Whether there's a legal duty of care or not, you have an ethical duty of care to your users. If you are designing a product that affects their day, you have a duty of care to make sure that you don't deliberately fuck with that shit. Okay, that's a equitable, common law, common sense fucking definition of a duty of care. You can quibble over the definition all you like, but you have if you are touching another person, you have an obligation to not punch them. It's that simple, and to respect those boundaries, right? It's common sense shit. And so this is why quibbles are annoying, because it's a distraction from the obvious. That you have a responsibility to your users or to your audience or to those things to make sure that you, if you're someone like, again, I used to defend Joe Rogan and say, look, on balance, again, on balance, net harm, net good, I would say that he's a net positive in terms of the radicalization pipeline until he became cooked. And now he is net harm. You see how things can shift and change? Things can, and like all of my videos and streams are a testament to how things can shift and change at all times. Like like the dynamic shifts and you go, okay, well, I was in favor of this thing. And then I was defending this on its merits. And then that shifted. Like I've had to, live with that embarrassment of defending Elon Musk. But I did that. I still defend him on the substantive aspects of what I defended him on haven't changed. Like Twitter was broken and it was fucked. And I believed him and I gave him the benefit of the doubt when it came to the product. I didn't think that he would be such. So he's not actually even operating in his own interests at this point. Like that was the variable that I think threw a lot of people, which is that it's actually like active. He's not even. I worked on, again. We work on the assumption that he wouldn't ruin his complete. You get what I'm saying? Like that he'd be operating in his own interests, but he's not. He's gone. He's having some sort of fucking mental break. It's not. He's not acting rationally. So that was my my assumption was that, or failing all else, failing everything else, he was at least aware of tech products and the market and what was in his own interest there. But to actively destroy these things, that was a variable that I did not anticipate. Like the people who were, again, people will rewrite history and pretend that they fucking. That's what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing this at the moment with this Iran shit. Like these fucking right wingers, and they're like, "I opposed the Iraq war." No, you didn't. I know you didn't. You weren't there. I saw who opposed it, and you weren't. You didn't. And they just like they rewrite these things as though they were like as though it's not a verifiable thing. That like okay, can you point me to an article where you spoke out against it? I can guarantee you that does not exist, because I was against the Iraq war and I know what it was like to do that, and it was tough. And you would not be here if you did. Do you not understand that? And you would not continue to be right wing if you did. Because there's so much learning between the Iraq war and now for you to realize and come to your senses that those people are the bad people. So no, you didn't. Stop lying, okay? You might, again, is what you say. You can just say that's the thing that I don't get. People can just say anything now. When did what you say mean anything other than over what you actually do? Like anyone can say anything. I'm going to write, I'm a good person. I'm good. I swear. I'm brilliant. That doesn't mean shit. If I'm not brilliant, I've got to prove it and show it and like do something. It's like that's the whole thing about Twitter. Twitter is all about talking and not doing. And that's why I make fun of lefties too, who do nothing, because they're just sitting there and they're just talking. They're not doing anything. They're not facing dilemmas. They're not putting themselves out there. They're not taking, even on Twitter, they're not taking any risks by speaking against the group. I can only imagine how cowardly they are in real life if you're not even brave on fucking Twitter, where it's safe for you to say whatever the fuck you want whenever you want. Right? You might see consequences, but like I have over the years, because I just tell it like I see it, and you will never ever see me say something I don't believe in the moment, It might change, it might shift, it might be lacking context or something like that, but for the most part, if you ask me what I meant by that thing, I'll explain it, and if I was wrong, I'll correct it. It's not that hard, but there's an awful people are just I don't understand how I don't understand any, like, how MAGA can fucking like like, I know it's a cult. I understand cult dynamics. I understand that they're gonna do this, right? When there's a failed prophecy or prophecy doesn't come true, they're gonna double down. There's always gonna be that thing, blah, 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 blah. But I also don't understand how they can talk about free speech and facts not caring about feelings and all this stuff for fucking years and years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, just about face on all of it. And not be embarrassed at all, not even just be the smallest amount. Like for me, if I get something wrong, like, and I've gotten things wrong, I get a lot of things wrong. That's just being wrong comes with talking a lot. Like you say it and you're going to be wrong. Like not that's just part of the thing, right? Um, but the less you say, the more right you're going to be. The more you speak, the more wrong you're going to be. That's a numbers thing, right? But also you're gonna be accidentally right more if you speak more as well. Like that's the lottery, right? Because there's a lot of, especially when you're dealing with things like politics and predictions and grey areas and that sort of stuff. Like you can sort of try to like, make predictions somewhat based on the past. But like with Elon Musk, I didn't factor in the fact that he was fucking cooked beyond, like, the people who hated Elon Musk 5 years ago didn't have a real basis for it versus those who do now, because it wasn't necessarily apparent at the time. And so they will rewrite history as if they were always right to hate Elon Musk, even though they hated him for the wrong reasons. They were just haters because you get what I'm saying? Like, it's like the reason yeah, it's amazing. I find it just so fascinating, these mental gymnastics that people make. It must be, I said this, who was, oh yeah, we were watching, I don't watch Patrick Bet David. I watch Aaron Brown and he makes fun of them all. And so I was watching this clip. There's been all of these clips at the moment with various MAGA influencers sort of just backing down over the war thing, like in the last week or whatever. And I said to Paul, I was like, it must be fucking exhausting. Like just the mental load. I mean, they're not even that clever, so they can't handle a lot to begin with, right? I can handle complexity and lean into it, and like I've got a pretty good noggin, right? But these guys aren't that clever. But it must be fucking exhausting having to just constantly bend and twist and like figure out a way around the thing, and just rather than just go, hey, I was wrong and I fucked up there and I'm an idiot, right? I find it fascinating. Like it must be like I would be exhausted from all the lying and spinning, and like how do they even do they all drink? Do they all just numb themselves to sleep? Does it even bother them at all? Because they are psychopaths and sociopaths, so maybe they just don't, maybe because they don't see consequences, the direct consequences of their content. They just see it as content and they don't actually see um, the actual consequences of their behavior because they've surrounded themselves with people who um, enable it. Like I know Konstantin Kissin's one of those. He sees it as content. It was a business from him. It was a strategy. And he had a brand and he was running with it and he stepped on everyone to get where he is, myself included. And again, that was someone that I trusted in good faith, and I helped him out because he said the things. This is the mistake. You don't believe them, because if you believe people, if you are relational in the way that you do things, and if you are like, so relational stuff means that if you do good stuff or you don't give because you expect to get something back. You don't do things because you expect something in return. You do it because it's the right thing to do, and you just trust that, like, it'll work out whatever in the end. Like, and it does tend to. Used to. In business, it used to. It doesn't now. That was where I got caught up because there's a lot of people out there who are transactional and who will exploit relational people. So people who are will do the right thing and they'll say, "Hey, I'll do you like," especially when it comes to favors. If you've got a skill and you're in business, and you're providing some sort of business service like consulting or whatever, people will pick your brain or ask a favor or, all of that sort of stuff. Um, and they will say anything. They'll say, "Oh, yeah, help me out and I'll help you. I'll refer, blah, blah, blah," and all this sort of stuff. And then, but they will use that. So if you're a soft touch, you've got to learn to set boundaries in business as well. And so he's one of those. He's one of those people where he will just say the right things and say the whatever, and he says it to his audience too. He'll lie to his audience, and he's ended up exactly there because he did all the things that people won't do, that good people don't do. And so, like, I don't think we should be buying this narrative that, like, any of these people are good people, because I don't think good people can actually become again, in the last 5 years, I don't think good people, as a general rule, you do get some cut through, but you don't. But, like, generally, you cannot build an audience online unless you're okay, again, unless you're like, I'm excluding real journalists or, people who are doing actual reporting. That's different. I'm talking about content, which is different to, journalism and art. Okay. I'm talking about content. If you are in the content game, you are going to have to do things that you don't want to do, and that are unethical in order to succeed now. Okay. Um, some people are willing to do that. Some people are willing to do that, like, and don't even care about the ethical issues, and they've got no ethics. They've just got no moral anything, like Constantine and like people like that. Um, and they just see it as fucking content. And I would argue, I'm actually on the side that Jen Kruger is one of those people. The thing about the left is that the left tend to be correct and the left tend to get, which is so, but there is a blind spot in the left when it comes to these things, which is that um, there's a blind spot when it comes to being stupid and listening to people who are stupid because they're saying they're falling on the right things, but they're still stupid. The right are different in that regard because they're stupid and wrong. So it's easier for you to kind of go, oh, and write them off. But because the left, they're stupid and saying the correct things that are based in, you think they're smarter than they are. Like if they're sort of talking about Marxism or anarchism, or they're using all of these words and sounding clever, they're still like, but they're, you get what I'm saying? Like that is still in the ballpark of correct. So that is a blind spot in the left because they are landing on the right, landing on the right answers by accident. But they're still stupid, right? The right just happens to be more wrong because they're stupid. So anyway, that's a blind spot. But also in terms of um, saying the right things and people, the left having very little influence in the media ecosystem online in particular, which is that you hear someone saying the right things and yet they put your guard down. And I don't know. I just think that I guess get a feel that just people like Cenk, they're not really in it. They've never been in it for the right reasons. And I think that if you pay attention, him and Constantine Kissen are not really very different from each other. Again, when you observe behaviour and conduct, he just built it on left shit. Again, like he says he's progressive, but is he in action? What does he do? What's he actually done that's progressive in the last few years? I mean, he formed Justice Democrats, I guess. He said it. But what has he done? And again, I'm always a fan of just observing behavior and conduct, right? And like people say a lot of things, like people are always tweeting about how they're fucking better than everyone else. Have they ever tried to implement a policy or deal with any of the stakeholders? Like again, with this war stuff, all these fucking idiots online going about our government falling into line with America. It's like, well, do you know anything about how our government operates? The constraints that they work under? Of course you don't. It's easy to say a thing. Why don't you go and be foreign minister and see how far you get? See how far you get by going up against the United States and Israel right now and declaring war on them. Do you know the implications of that? Of course you don't, because you're just saying stuff. You believe stuff. You're not doing anything. Like I tend to give those who are in it the benefit of the doubt a bit more. And if that makes me, like, again, that doesn't mean I'm less of a lefty than anyone else. I just sit back and observe behavior. And I like to remind people that Twitter is all about people who care about how they are perceived and about all of the wrong incentives. They're just going to say the thing to people who will affirm what they're saying and to get attention, because a lot of them know that they're trying to get picked up by the media. They're trying to go viral at all times, and they will just say the things. It's amazing how people ignore that fact. And I just say whatever the fuck. I don't care, because I know that no one reads it. I don't know that most of what I say is unpalatable and uncomfortable for people, and that's okay, because I like that. I like to just remind people every so often that it's not real. It's not doing anything. And the people who are pretending to do stuff on Twitter are no more doing anything than I am. But I'm there and I know about it. And, like I've always said, like we're on it's like there was the old, you have got no life and you've got no life thing with the old forum days, where it would be someone would accuse one person of having no life and the other person would say, no, you've got no life. And then I'd go in, because I was usually the admin, and I go, well, this is a fucking fan forum. None of us have lives. Shut the fuck up. That's my role on Twitter, which is to say, you're not doing anything. Do something. Right? And then again, like, I do stuff offline that I don't necessarily like my online offline worlds colliding. I've done a little bit more of it lately because I feel the need to defend the Labor Party a bit more, because people are just being fucking stupid. Like I'm friends with MPs, I'm friends with politicians. They work really fucking hard. And like they don't you're just making up lies. And I don't like lying. I just don't, it's like, and you're not doing it because you're an activist. You're not doing it for anything other than you're degrading other people. And I hope someone sues for defamation at some point. I hope that one day you fuck around and find out and fucking, someone, like, again, the optics of suing is not great for a politician, so they don't, but they're within their rights to. Like, the stuff that I've seen over the years, what people have said about politicians, and especially this pro-genocide stuff, that you are very, very lucky that, like, we don't live in a place where you're very lucky that you're saying that about a politician who values political expression and not a fucking person, anyone else. And I think deep down you know that, but turning around and saying that people are pro-murder and pro-genocide with zero evidence, when you are a member of the media and you should know about defamation and, like, what that actually, you know what you're doing. And there's no evidence of that whatsoever, other than the fact that she's a fucking foreign minister and she can't do anything. And it's like, fucking hell. But, like, it's, like, I don't normally, like, I kind of keep my online, offline lives as separate as possible. Like, because most of my business stuff is NDA, like, and my political relationships is like, I don't really want to expose people, because I, again, am a decent person. I'm an ethical operator. I, honor my agreements and I honor my, all of these things. And, I like to keep them separate. But I have been speaking out a little more about Labor stuff because people are just being fucking stupid and moronic about it. And it's like, what do you expect? And like this black and white thinking, but you're not doing anything either. And that's the thing about these like online things is that, be honest with yourself about what you're doing. You're not doing anything. You're on Twitter, right? You are saying stuff. You're not doing stuff. They're not the same thing. You're saying stuff. What are you doing? You are like you're making up stuff, and you can't even bother to learn the basics about what you're actually talking about. Like if you like these people that fucking say stupid shit about this social media bill, which is the result of many years of inquiry, a bunch of recommendations. It has been, like the legislation, I don't know, has been drafted yet, but the recommendations have been published. They are recommendations that have come from experts, a consensus of, multi-year inquiry on these things. And like you are so arrogant to think that you can just tweet about how you hate it like a toddler, get fucking 15,000 other toddlers to like it, and that's your job done. Where's your submission to the fucking thing? I can't see your name anywhere, right? Where's your fucking submission to the public inquiry that and the consultation period that was open for like a year before any of this? Exactly. You did nothing. You just got opinions. You're just saying stuff for dopamine. And that's why I just don't care. It's filler. And you are, like I've said 100 times before, you are your behavior and you are your priorities. You're not your beliefs. You're not your thoughts. You're not your tweets. You're your conduct. And if your tweets are the right tweet, but they are intended to harass or scare or incite, then I'm sorry, but you're not a good person. You can incite with a good, no. Get clear on it. And that's the thing that is like, I will never understand this stuff. That these people who think that they're better than they're just, I see right through them, especially like media people who will like incite anything, say anything, do anything for a click, and then act like they've got the high moral ground. And it's like, do you not understand that I've paid every price for just speaking my mind over the years? Do you think I don't see through you and that you are not only saying things because it is popular to say things? You've done the calculations before you speak. I know this about you, and I find it very, very interesting that the projection that occurs where that's one of the things that the right have been doing a lot lately, accusing people who are just saying stuff of engagement farming. And it's like, it never even enters my mind. Think I don't know how to farm engagement? Like, what the fuck? I mean, aside from, I'd have to create. The thing is that like when you're shadow banned, right? There's other signals and stuff. If I really wanted to engagement farm, do you think I'd be like saying what I say? Like, what the fuck? No, I'd just go and I'd buy. Well, first of all, I'd buy an aged account, and I'd use a VPN with a different like IP. There's too many ways to track you now, so they know it's you. So if you've been banned or shadow banned, they generally, by association, will, suppress. My son went through this when my YouTube account was being mass reported because his YouTube account was linked to my brand account on YouTube. His was lifted. His was sort of starting to be a little bit suppressed by association as well because it was just being linked. So it's just by association. It's not just a matter of, so don't, if you get, like, don't bother creating another account. There's no point because they know who you are at any time. But also you don't have anonymity at all. But it's, but if I wanted to do that, I know how to engagement farm if I wanted to, right? But I'm not going to because first of all, I find it stupid and boring and I don't want to because who wants to waste? Imagine that. Imagine having nearly I see, it would be even worse for me because I've nearly died 3 times in my life, and so for me, every fucking extra second is a bonus second of my life that I may not have, and so for me, I look at it through that perspective, which is and I'm gonna spend it trying to get likes from idiots? What? Why? What for? How pathetic would you need to be for that? Like, these people that accuse others of engagement, again, you tell people when you do this stuff, you tell people what your priorities are. This is like non-verbal leakage, okay? Or which is like there's a subtext to everything that you're saying, and if you pay attention to these right-wing accounts, they're confessing everything first of all. So there is that, every accusation is a confession. But it's also confessing what your priorities are. If you accuse others of doing stuff like that, that may or may not be doing it, it shows what your values are and what you care about more, right? Like I talk about these engagement farm things and troll farms and stuff, mostly because I was watching people fall for them all the time and how trivial it is to set this stuff up. And so it is, it's trivial to set up a script. I've shown all of these things. I set up an AI bot that does, I've shown all of this stuff over the course of my streams and stuff. But at the same time, um, you've got I find it funny when people project this idea that somehow you're engaged, like the thing where they go, "Oh, blue check premium, you're trying to get reach," and it's like, well, first of all, you don't get reach just for buying premium. Your replies get boosted. Okay, so that's one thing. So you're factually wrong. And like, I don't generally reply, and the reason why I don't reply is because I am on like final strikes, and every time if I reply, I've had a few instances where every ban I've ever had has been as a result of a reply, not from an original tweet. So because that if you're sitting on your last chance through various things, whether it's mass reporting or whatever, um, I avoid replying because I've had fairly innocuous joke replies get me the 12-hour ban, and I'm on my last legs with all my accounts again because of all of the reasons that I've talked about before. Because I used to focus a lot on the methods that people use to suppress and punish and harass and all those sorts of things. Back when I thought that people wanted to learn, I didn't realize that people don't want to actually know that. It's like when that psychology when, you see someone who's being, like, catfished and they're scammed, and you see them and they still believe that that person, that relationship is real, and that person is real and loves them, and it's not happening. Like, you're seeing that happen with AI as well, where people are starting to, like, persuade themselves that it's real because they're in denial, like, that sort of process. It's the same thing that happens with cults, and that's what's happening with Trump. And I think the thing I learned most about my little experiment of a few years with this stuff was I went in thinking that if you just gave people the information that they were likely talking to bots or likely being manipulated or whatever, they change and go, "Oh, well, thank you for that information." That was weird for me to it was confronting to learn that people, like, if I knew that, I'd go, "Oh, shit, okay, yeah, self-correct. Oh, shit, okay, I didn't realize. Alright, my mistake." I thought people were like me. But there's a lot of people who are committed to keeping the illusion alive, and, like, the emotional, aspects of this. They don't care that it's fake, they don't care that it's a troll farm, they don't care that it's, um, a catfish, they don't care that they're being scammed. They want to believe that it's true, and that is more powerful and more persuasive than anything else. And that's what I find. I found, I mean, again, you can intellectually know it and then still be surprised at the extent of it. And that is the thing, is that people really don't want to engage with reality. They want to engage in cope. Like, it's the degree of that still astonishes me that even when confronted with all of the information, it's kind of why I just gave up on talking about these things and these tactics, because no one wanted to hear it. They just wanted to argue with bots. They just wanted to argue with fucking troll farms, and they just wanted to, and MAGA just sit in that bubble of arguing with things that never happened, don't exist, um, and aren't real. They're just having a schizophrenic episode, and they're arguing with the ghosts in their fucking head, and shit that doesn't happen. Like you're watching that with the Zoran Mamdami's win. Is that his name? Yeah, Mamdami. I got to learn how to pronounce it properly. Watching them just absolutely fucking become delusional. Because they're arguing. They're not even arguing on a plane of like reality. You can't reach them. They just they are arguing from like the faultiest of premises, and there is no persuading that. Like it's like they literally, and that's part of me. As funny as I find it, I also feel sad because there's part of me that believes that there's a lot of people who truly are fearful like that and believe that because they've been fed this fear campaign for so many years that they truly believe that this woke mind virus is coming to get them. And that this, that like that, and all these people who think that everyone's anti-Semitic and that the second Holocaust is happening when it's their own. I mean, it must be pretty hard to accept that your own people are doing the same thing to someone else. That must be very difficult. Must be very difficult to grapple with. I mean, I'm Catholic. I'm used to it. I'm used to the hypocrisy. I'm not Catholic. I'm not religious at all. But I was born Catholic, and I'm like every good Catholic. I don't believe in God, but it's worrying that like people are just they're not arguing with you or arguing with anything other than something. You're arguing with all the voices in their head. I've had this interaction where it's like, who are you talking to right now? Who do you think I am? Like, who are you talking? What the fuck? Like, these are people who hold down jobs somehow. And it's like they are arguing with something that's not real and doesn't exist and like I didn't say. And it's like, how are you functioning as a person? You're having an episode. It's not real. It's not happening. You're arguing like you sound like you've got like you're imagining bees in your beard. You're no different from the rambling schizo on the street. Like what the fuck? But somehow it's become so normalized to just argue with something that doesn't exist that people are holding down jobs doing it and also monetizing it. Like monetizing this delusion is insane. Like I don't know how you like would even begin to tackle those kinds of incentives. Again, all I can come down to is making tech platforms criminally responsible for these harms. But like it's or at least civil liability in terms of like making sure that they get fines, hefty fines for lots and lots, data breaches, misuse of data, all that stuff. They have if you could just go to the government and go, hey, they did this, and then you get a fine, and you get compensation from them. They'd smarten up quick smart, but no one's got the balls to do it. But I may, but like I don't see how that's going to happen anytime soon. It might need to get there. Might need to get to a crisis point because people haven't really thought about this sort of mass psychosis across the board that has been caused by the internet. Again, in a subset, small group of the population, but they're significant enough that they exist and infect like everyone's day and life. If you're in a customer service position and arguing with the voices in your head, that's not going to go well in the long term. There's going to be an incident. Um, everyone's sort of got this subclinical schizophrenia, for lack of a better word. Not that it's not ethical to diagnose, but I'm naming symptoms. I'm saying it's like a subclinical schizophrenia, like a schizoid sort of phenomenon where people are just inventing these ideas in their head and arguing with them and lashing out at people. It's not a good formula. It's not a good formula for, like, society in general. And so I think we're gonna see more and more incidences of these misunderstandings turning violent. But, anyway. But yeah, I was gonna talk about the Ethan Klein thing, because, I think it's very important to note that, like, American law is not Australian law. America has, this thing called fair use and transformative fair use, which we don't have, okay? You can't there's no such thing as a legal sample here. You can't It's not like a time. You can't just go, "Oh, it's a 30-second sample." It's not that. You can have, a jingle, if you use a jingle and it's, like, reasonably recognizable or famous, that's all that's it. Like, it's, and you use it, and that you're on the hook for a breach, right? Now there are other there's it's a bit more complicated than that. Like, we do have fair dealing and stuff like that, but we have a lot more reasonable, um, um I used to think that fair use provisions were needed, but like anything, you see the result. Again, it's like this is the comes back to what I was saying about, like, tech, and being in support in principle, but then understanding that there's people that can't help themselves and will abuse the law and will weaponize these things. And, like, the weaponization of copyright is not new, right? That's a new thing. Fucking Sony. There's a case with Sony suing, like, some Japanese app company, for cats and dogs, and they're using cats, but theirs is dogs, and apparently cats are similar to dogs. It's like really spurious reasoning. I haven't read the actual judgment because the problem is, again, because we live in a slop world, um, uh, you get someone's interpretation of the case, not the actual judgment. Usually when you read the actual judgments, the reasoning is sound and makes sense. Like, that's why I tend to give judges the benefit of the doubt, um, over a blogger, because it's almost like they know what usually when you go back to the source, and that includes government reports, government inquiry, proposed laws, various other things like that. Generally, if you go back, there's a reason, and it's well reasoned, and it's well argued, and up against a tweet of someone screeching how the sky is falling, I know who I side with, right? Um, yeah, so, but with our, you don't really have fair use here per se. There are ways you can establish that. Um, yeah, I am always the reason I'm humming and hawing is because I'm always humming and hawing about, talking about, like, legal stuff. It's not legal advice. It is just I have a political science degree and a degree in, public policy and, legal studies. I am almost at the end of my law degree, but I am not a lawyer, and I'm not, really allowed to be talking about this stuff. So that line is blurry, so I kind of have to be a little more cautious with my words in that regard. Um, any idiot can just say whatever the fuck they want, of course, because that's the world we live in, but I've got to be more cautious about the way that I speak. But it's, and because I take it seriously, unlike everyone else, I end up paying the price. But it's, but it's going to be interesting, this AI stuff, because a lot of people are, again, zero sum, win loss, for or against, but it doesn't work that way. You'll have one ruling, like the Anthropic ruling at the moment, where, they said that it is fair use, it's transformative fair use to, use the books to train the LLMs, but it's not fair use in order to use to pirate the books that will train the LLM. So you see those distinctions. But then you've got another case, which is the Thomson Reuters case, and a few others where they will say it isn't transformative fair use because it is, more like in the case of Thomson Reuters, it is like legal facts, and they own the database, and there's so many like factors in this stuff, okay, where they're trying to navigate it, and it's not like, "Oh, the sky is falling, the sky is falling." It's like, well, we're trying to pass through the existing framework and principles. It's like, I don't think you understand that, like, law is built over, well, hundreds of years, okay, into lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of it depends. And again, who do you defer to? Do you defer to a blogger, or do you defer to hundreds of years of common law, legal principles that are mostly like correct, not always correct, but mostly, and try to apply those principles, right? And so like that going through that doctrine, that's the word for it, is you taking stuff from a tweet that that somehow they are overturning all of what is common sense and case law is well, first of all, unlikely to happen. So judges are also going to be hesitant to like create precedent that like override. They understand the stakes and the implications. Unlike idiots on Twitter, they understand the consequences of their actions and their decision and their reasoning. They're not idiots, okay? One could argue they're not even close to idiots, and they actually know what they're talking about. And so judges are going to look at the law, and they're going to look at the jurisprudence, that's the word, which is the study of law and the body of, the body of like knowledge that we've like accumulated to date. And they're going to try and apply that to a new problem. Otherwise, there's some that say, hey, you can creatively apply that. And then there's some that say, no, we only obey the letter of the law. And if there is no law or legal framework, which is unusual because if you can actually apply some of these things, if you go back and track and, like you go back as far as mens rea to fucking police the fucking tech guys. If you wanted to, if you had the will. But the problem is then they'd be under attack for being like, law that they're judicial, that they're activists. Okay, so they can't really win if they interpret the law creatively. And so a lot of judges are like, well, no, we've got to if you want us to interpret the law a certain way, then you've got to legislate it that way. And so, then it becomes about how the government has to legislate and create statutes. And then what our government will do is do a 5-year inquiry and consult with every expert in the country, give the public an opportunity to write in and write their opinion, and then turn around and go, only for some fuckwit to turn around and go, hey, all of that work's been done. I don't like it. Stupid. You see how stupid you look when you tweet about these things without actually knowing that how these things are made, that they are, you've got this extensive, exhaustive process where someone has identified a gap in the law. It goes through the Law Reform Commission. So the Law Reform Commission gets submissions in law journals, all the journals, all those people that are writing all these things over the years about interpretation of the law and identifying the gaps in the law. The Law Reform Commission then turn around and go, hey, you know what? I think maybe we should need to change the law here. Every year, the Law Reform Commission go, we need to change the laws in these areas. Okay, in this specialist area, that's, And then you've got the government of the day and their policy, and they go, well, we want to have this policy and this law. How can we do that? And they go, okay, let's have an inquiry. So it's a 5-year inquiry. And they go, okay, so ACCC, you need to look at Coles and Woolworths, or you need to look at like privacy or internet privacy and whether our current situation is, our current regime is fit for purpose. They will then launch an inquiry, a public inquiry. In the case of the digital services, platform services inquiry, That's an ongoing yearly inquiry that's been going on for several years now, where they report quarterly on everything that needs to change to date. Okay. So that at every part of that process, you get legal experts, scholars, academics, industry, the public. You can all submit your opinion at any time. And then they take that and then they do a draft report of their findings. And then they go, hey, here's our recommendations based on everything that you've said. And then you go, and then they go, okay, well, any feedback on the report? And they go, yeah. And I've got more. Okay, quibble. Okay, well, then they do another report. They do a final report. And then they go, okay, well, we recommend these changes. Then it's up to the government whether they accept those recommendations or not. And then the opposition party can go, and the Greens or anyone, whatever, can go, hey, I object. Then it might go to a Senate committee after that as well to draft or whatever, right? So they might draft the legislation. The legislation is then drafted to be compatible with the Constitution, whether it's good policy or not, because the parliamentary council, whatever they're called, their job is to write the legislation and make it, consistent, legally airtight. That's their job. You can't write bad law in this country if you pass it through parliament because it goes to a fucking drafts person, okay, that's a specialist in that. Fucking hell. So, again, learning to not conflate bad ideas and bad politics and priorities and having to set priorities of government with your personal opinion and feelings. And you don't like it because you don't participate in the process, learn about the process, learn how anything's done, or understand how anything's made. Sit, fill your boots, complain on Twitter. Who gives a fuck? Sit around defaming people. You're wasting your life. Go for it. Don't waste my life in the process. I happen to value mine. So, but again, it's just like they don't understand the process. And it's like, okay, that's why I tend to, it's not bootlicking the powerful. It's the fact that I know that a lot of this stuff comes pre-chewed and pre-processed and pre-thought of. You go and look at the fucking reports and you look at the analysis and you look at the submissions, you go, oh yeah, there's an absolute narcissism and exceptionalism that comes from somebody who criticizes, these things late in the process because they think that they can't. Everyone else has not thought of the thing they've thought of. It's like, no, if you read the reports, you'll probably find that your concerns were addressed at some point, and they've argued why it's not relevant in contrast to this other thing. It's how it works. You're being a baby. Knock it off. And it's like, you can just look at making claims that Labour are pro-genocide. Well, no, it's in their platform that they are pro Palestinian rights. But the realities of being in government are very different. It's almost like you can't just say what you want and do what you want whenever you want. If even I'm saying that, then, you're unwell, for fuck's sake. Anyway, I'm going to go. I have gone for 2 hours. I didn't really, I'll try to be more regular and stuff. I just, it's hard to be motivated in this current climate. But I will try to jump on a bit more, and I'm just trying to figure out the best approach to things. I may end up, Anyway, I'll figure it out. And but yeah, if you've watched me before, you know what's going on. I'm trying to figure out where I fit and where my value lies, and streaming to a couple of people. I don't even know if anyone's watching, chatting, anything at the moment because I just don't know. I've got no visual cue that it's even connected. So, but I will work through those things, and I'm just trying to figure out what the best way forward is. I'm thinking of doing some sort of coherent sort of tech podcast with a few people and creating some sort of panel show or something like that around this stuff. But we'll see how we go. I've got to focus my time and energy on the important things doing stuff offline and talking to my friends and politicians and various people like that actually do stuff, right, and figuring out where I'm of value most value to people with my skill set, and uh, where this fits in, because I just enjoy doing it more than anything. As much as I yell and scream about it and get annoyed, I do enjoy it because it, gives me skills that I wouldn't otherwise have. So anyway, I'm gonna go. Have a great one, and yeah, ping me, whatever. Okay, ciao. Subscribe to my Substack if you want. I'm going to start. Actually, I do have a queue of things to publish. I've just been like, again, I have to prioritize the things that uh, get me through law school and pay my bills. And if it doesn't fit in that, that's my top two. So if you want to pay my bills, I'll stream more. It's that simple. So I'll do what I can. So anyway, I love you. Take care. Bye.